You should hear what keeps him up at night.
This is what keeps me up at night. I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there.
Well, he's half right. We do need a wall. You know, to keep out gang members, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, and Anna Navarro. What's funny, though, is that Stern actually thought that was a compliment. Stern has become such a wussified sycophant, he doesn't realize that telling Kamala that he'd vote for a wall is telling her that he knows she's as dumb as one.
Howard Stern rose to fame by pushing boundaries, rebelling against norms, and tearing down the status quo. But when Greg Gutfeld turned his sights on the shock king, Stern had nothing to say, no witty reply, no explosive response. Just an uncomfortable silence that said more than words ever could in an unexpected live moment. Gutfeld did not merely criticize Stern's change, he exposed it as a complete sellout. The rebel had joined the very system he once destroyed, and Gutfeld lit the spark. What happens when the master of defiance is outdone at his own game?
That's how Stern can call snacking with celebs at a fancy restaurant exhausting. Exhausting. Like he finished the overnight shift in a coal mine, or hearing Kat talk about her pets.
Fair.
But I get it, life is tough, especially when you've been cut off from the world for 2 years in a $20 million beach house. I mean, you have no idea how tiring it is walking all the way from the wine cellar to the tennis court and back.
Some television moments fade from memory and others leave. A mark as deep as a meteor strike, unforgettable and impossible to ignore the fiery clash between Greg Gutfeld and Howard Stern on live television. Was the latter not simply a verbal exchange, but a cultural showdown? Two icons from opposite ends of the media spectrum collided, and only one emerged with credibility intact. Stern, once hailed as the king of all media, suddenly looked like he no longer belonged among the stars.
It is incredibly brave to take this stance after you've made $300, $400 million not being woke, right? Loving Donald Trump, exploiting the mentally ill, wearing blackface. Look at the crop of woke comments, whether it's Stern or Jimmy Kimmel, his BFF, Sarah Silverman, Joy Behar, Michael Ian Black. What do they all have in common? They wore blackface. And then they went woke. It's not a chicken or egg thing there. You know what order it came. So I call this BFR. It's blackface reparations. There's nothing in Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, you know, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last. But they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists.
Before we dive deeper, make sure to follow the channel and activate notifications. Back in the day, Stern built his brand by doing what no one dared: loud, brash, and relentlessly honest. He was the voice of a generation that rejected politeness and conformity. His name stood for defiance, raw truth, and fearless commentary. You either admired him or loathed him, but you could never overlook him. However, with time, something began to change slowly but undeniably.
I will say this, Dagan. I thank God for Howard Stern because he does make me feel normal by comparison. Because I'm like the Fox recluse. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. But he makes me look like, you know, Pete Davidson on a...
Yeah, he's a germaphobe. Like, his wife rescues cats. That's her job, apparently, her thing. But you can get toxoplasmosis.
That's
and
true.
Cryptosporidiosis.
AIDS.
And
no, you can't.
No,
but
you can't get. But you can get.
I mean, what are the chances I get that again?
Like a lot of diarrhea related.
Once the outsider who roared against the elite Stern has become a calm host chatting politely with celebrities, rubbing shoulders with Hollywood insiders, this is where Gutfeld saw weakness, a clear fracture in the image. While often criticized, Gutfeld has refined the skill of provocative television, combining political insight with caustic humor and a knack for exposing pretenders. His show thrives on mockery, satire, and daring commentary, so when Stern became a topic, the stage was set. What began as a throwaway reference evolved into a calculated takedown. Gutfeld did not merely question Stern's evolution, he deconstructed it, mocking the man who once celebrated chaos for now preaching order from his luxury studio.
On his radio show, Howard Stern defended wokeism, saying it's a compliment when someone calls him woke. Listen.
If woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, dude.
This was no random insult. Gutfeld went for the jugular, painting Stern not as a trailblazer, but as a warning. The message was clear. Stern, once an icon of rebellion, had become what he used to oppose in Gutfeld's world, that is, the ultimate betrayal. No shouting was needed. Gutfeld stayed calm, dissecting. Stern, with clinical accuracy, he juxtaposed the wild, unfiltered provocateur with the now polished celebrity interviewer. It was not loud, but it was devastating, the irony wrote. Itself, the man who once mocked insincerity had become its symbol. Gutfeld had no need to exaggerate. Reality was sharper than fiction.
But Stern being holed up in his house that long, it explains a lot of things, like how you forget how other people live, especially in hard times like a pandemic. For the longest time, 2 years in fact, the same time Stern's been AWOL, I wondered where he went. Not physically, but mentally. I bet you did too. Remember his screeds about COVID? They were epic and angry, and not to mention wrong.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? F them, f their freedom. I want my...
The man who once proudly defied authority now seemed desperate for validation, approval from Hollywood, from corporations, from the mainstream. The impact was amplified by context. Gutfeld's platform thrives on dismantling sacred icons. So when he went after Stern, it felt more like a cultural judgment than a celebrity spat, one rebel calling out another for losing the spark. The critique was not just personal, it was existential, and Stern offered no response, no clever retort, no fierce rebuttal, just a silence that echoed the point. Gutfeld did not have to win the moment his audience already believed. He had the contrast could not be starker.
When I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that, Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate.
Stern earned his reputation during a time when rebellion meant real consequences, fines, bans, outrage, but those battles made him powerful. Gutfeld, however, emerged during the era of online mobs, cancel culture, and digital outrage. He replaced shock with sarcasm, rebellion with ridicule. His moment with Stern was not just a personality clash, but a generational conflict. Gutfeld personifies the modern internet insurgent, sarcastic meme, ready and relentlessly anti-hypocrisy, and the audience saw it as clearly as a court case, two warriors, no judge, a million spectators waiting to cast the verdict, and what stung the most was the praise. Gutfeld gave the past Stern before tearing down the present one.
Happy Friday, America! Oh man, tonight is a special night. It's Feminine Friday, where all the panelists are women. Tonight we have Kennedy. Yeah! David McDowell. Pat Tim. And Janine Garofalo. All right. A long way for a meat joke. Okay, I hope you had a good week. I did, and no thanks to Howard Stern. True, the New York Post reported that Stern hit a chic restaurant in NYC with a crew of A-listers, including Jimmy Kimmel, Jennifer Aniston, Jon Hamm, Justin Theroux, Jason Bateman. I was not invited.
Gutfeld suggested the old Stern would have eviscerated the version. We see now the one wearing designer hoodies. Offering gentle interviews to the very people he once mocked to, Gutfeld Stern had shifted from cultural assassin to peaceful media monk manicured, restrained, and disturbingly at ease with the machine he used to attack, and once that vision took hold, it could not be unseen. The public reacted instantly. Clips spread across platforms, opinions poured in, not because of a wild quote, but because Gutfeld voiced a quiet frustration that had lingered. Unspoken among Stern's longtime fans, it triggered a deeper question: can any rebel remain a rebel forever?
Stern got even more pathetic, wondering how she doesn't nap.
When you said you don't nap, I get it, because like what you've taken on is extraordinarily difficult. And I mean, do you feel the pressure of the moment in the sense that, like when I met you out in the hall, I said, I'm really nervous because I want this to go well for you. I want it to go well for the country.
Hold on. I need a minute.
Is it inevitable that all rule breakers become what they once fought, or worse, begin defending the very systems they once despised? Gutfeld argued the issue was not that Stern changed, but how he changed not through honest evolution, but through strategic self-protection. The fearless commentator now looked hesitant to offend the critic of fame, now craving its comfort. And Stern's silence after the fact only fueled the perception that he had no answer, maybe even that he agreed with the critique.
This definition of woke, it's if you call someone a know-it-all, you're not complimenting them on the breadth of their knowledge. Yeah. You're saying you don't know as much as you think you know. So yeah, woke doesn't have anything to do with vaccines. What it really means is sort of a slavish devotion to left-wing ideology and then repeating it so you can get social credit.
Right.
That's really what it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're smarter than anybody. And he had said in another part of this set, because I believe in the science. Well, if you believed in the science, you wouldn't be hiding out like Howard Hughes in your mansion.
Those who once respected Stern's edge began to wonder if it still existed. The silence was not stoic, it was vacant in a world that rewards fast reactions and narrative control. Stern's quiet felt like resignation. Gutfeld, on the other hand, looked like a man who knew the punch had landed. He remained measured, letting the audience do the shouting for him. Riposte, reactions, and agreement validated his point more than any monologue could. The significance lay in who he had. Callenged. Stern, the man who once made a living off exposing hypocrisy, was now being exposed, and the moment felt less like gossip and more like a judgment day.
I always hate that argument, like, what happened to the old Stern, or what people have changed. That's not what this is about. It's a weird disconnect.
Well, he hasn't changed.
No.
People have been calling him insane for 40 years.
Yeah.
That just used to be, this guy's nuts. And now they're like, oh, we're worried about Howard. He needs help. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, though, I'm a little sympathetic because what you said is correct, but I'm also a germaphobe.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just have a smaller apartment.
Yes.
The entire moment, direct or not, served as a searing indictment of modern media, a mirror showing its decline. Gutfeld's ascent was no accident. It was built on what Stern once represented: unfiltered speech, defiance, disregard for gloss, while legacy outlets buckle under caution and corporate image. Gutfeld fills the space with boldness and unpredictability. He offers the rawness Stern used to supply, but now avoids. The battle was bigger than the two men. It was a generational shift, and in that instant on live TV, Gutfeld appeared to carry the voice of truth, while Stern clung to an image that no longer reflected his reality.
That the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate. But maybe that's the explanation. This is Stern's self-imposed penance for subjugating women to demoralizing stunts, capitalizing on desperate females thirsting for attention, even if it's from an oily paddle striking their bare asses.
Whether that judgment is fair is beside the point. In media perception becomes fact. The real question is what comes next. Does Stern rediscover his edge or settle deeper into comfort? Does Gutfeld become the new face of bold commentary? In a world hungry for truth, one thing is certain: something changed that night. The torch was passed, or maybe taken. Either way, it was more than a moment. It was a shift, a generational pivot, a reckoning for the man who once dished them out. And regardless of where you stand, you could feel it, because when the king is called out by the Joker, the entire kingdom pays attention.